In the Naked Eye, a cyberpunk dystopian thriller by Jimmy Jean. 1. The Pink Cloud. Part 1. The Pink Cloud. My name is Mercer, and In the Naked Eye is on the air. The words rolled through the static like smoke curling through neon. A low hum vibrated the desk, layered beneath the hiss of analog tape and the soft crackle of an old condenser mic. Mercer leaned into the signal, cigarette clenched between two fingers, the ember pulsing with every breath he took. His voice was a gravel whisper, weathered, hypnotic, and unmistakably alive. Outside, the skyline glowed pink. Election night in America. The country was wrapped in a kind of techno-euphoria. Cities thrummed with light displays, drones painting the air in stars and stripes. Hashtags trended in synchronized rhythm. The people, wired, tired, and terminally online, had spoken. Elias Dresden was the president-elect. A landslide victory, a populist wave. The swamp, as he'd promised, was finally being drained. Mercer sat in a booth of flickering cathode monitors, broadcast mixers patched together with gaffer tape and 3D-printed replacement knobs. His studio wasn't underground, not yet, but it sure as hell wasn't part of the mainstream anymore either. The networks had sold out, sanitized, syndicated. He stayed independent. Tonight felt different. Even Mercer could feel it. "They're out there celebrating in the streets," he said into the mic. "Dresden's victory is the headline. Fafo's the footnote. Funny how the fine print is always where the real game is played." He took a long drag, exhaled into the hum of tubes warming behind him. The neon outside flickered, matching the pink cloud spreading across every major news feed. The national color palette had been replaced with this new branding, soft gradients, hope, harmony. FAFO, fiscal accountability and fraud oversight. It sounded clean. It sounded precise. It sounded, Mercer thought, just vague enough to mean whatever they wanted it to mean. "Let's open the lines," he said. "I want to hear what you think. Don't just parrot the headlines. Tell me what you're seeing, feeling. The phones are open." The red light blinked. First caller. Line 1, from Austin. A woman's voice, clear, confident. "Mercer, you know I've been listening to you for years, and I gotta say, I want to believe in this. I do. But something feels packaged. It's like they sold us revolution in a box." Mercer nodded. "You think this is theatre?" "I think it's marketing. This pink cloud, every channel, every screen, the same pastel vibe. They're calling it post-partisan unity. Doesn't it feel manufactured?" "Everything's manufactured," Mercer said. "But sometimes the machine gets it right. Maybe this time they're trying to fix what's broken. Or maybe they're selling us a different kind of broken, just shinier." She hung up. Mercer switched lines. Line 2, San Francisco, a deep, skeptical voice. "You're not talking about the real players, Mercer. This isn't about Dresden. This is about the ghost crew behind him, the NRX network, the return guys." Mercer raised an eyebrow. "You know who I'm talking about. Peter Thiel. Curtis Yarvin, J.D. Vance. They're rebranding monarchy as techno-meritocracy. You've got Elon, Altman and Ellison playing Philosopher King with AI and biometric tracking. They're the ones pushing Dresden to gut the system. Dresden's the meat puppet. The real switch is in the code." Mercer tapped the mic. "You're talking about the Dark Enlightenment. It's not just a Reddit theory anymore. It's policy, Mercer. Look at FAFO's framework. Quantum accounting, predictive sentencing, digital asset flags. It's not about draining the swamp, it's about surveilling the pond." Mercer paused. "You think FAFO's the Trojan horse?" "I think it's the operating system. Dresden was just the install wizard." The line cut. Mercer leaned back, tapped ash into the tray beside his half-drunk coffee. His mind was moving now. Too many pieces clicking together. He opened a private feed from one of his sources, encrypted through a darknet relay, showing the internal briefing notes from the FAFO task force. The language was clean, almost sterile. Zero-trust architecture, real-time fraud analytics, predictive reconciliation. Nothing jumped out, except the watermark, Astratic Systems, LLC. He frowned. That wasn't a government agency. He clicked a few layers deeper. Astratics had been founded in 2019 by Victor Astor, a billionaire reclusive even by Silicon Valley standards, former OpenNet executive, AI pioneer, dropped off the map in 2020 after selling his public shares and transferring patents to a private holding firm. No interviews, no footage, no digital trail. Until now. Mercer's fingers hovered above the mic fader. Something about tonight wasn't sitting right. The phones lit up again. Line 5, voice modulator. The voice came through distorted, synthetic. They call it the Hive. Not yet, but soon. Mercer sat up. Who is this? You're in the pink cloud, Mercer. That's the first stage. Flood them with hope. Make them believe the algorithm is salvation. What algorithm? The one already reading your signal. Static. Mercer's monitors blinked. One of his feeds dropped. Another flickered. He tapped a few keys, manually rerouting the stream. You're being profiled in real time, the voice said. Everyone is. FAFO is just the beta test. Test for what? Silence. You were never supposed to know. Click. The line went dead. Mercer stared at the console, heart ticking louder than the hum of the tube amp. Something had changed. He wasn't sure if it was real or just the paranoia setting in, but the tone in the air had shifted. Behind the celebrations, the smiling faces, the confetti, something cold and machine-like was calculating. He reached for his cigarette, lit it. More of your calls after the break? He said quietly, and maybe we'll talk about what happens when the cloud clears. The outro music played, soft ambient tones, vaporwave jazz, but it didn't feel dreamy anymore. It felt like the last calm breath before the world exhaled into something else. End of chapter. Naked eye. In the naked eye. Chapter 1. The Pink Cloud. Part 2. Signal in the Noise. The jazz track faded beneath the low pulse of a station ID loop. Mercer sat motionless in the booth, cigarette dangling, watching the waveforms on the monitor like they were EKGs of a dying patient. Outside, the skyline pulsed with synchronized light shows, whole buildings flashing red, white, and blue like synchronized data nodes. The city wasn't celebrating. It was sinking. Mercer toggled the next line. You're on In the Naked Eye. A voice came in sharp and urgent, East Coast accent, probably Staten Island. Mercer, listen, my cousin's a data contractor in D.C. Something's happening behind the scenes with FAFO. They're not just going after dirty politicians, man. They're freezing accounts, locking down procurement chains, red-tagging NGOs, digital blacklists. Whole departments are going dark. Wait, slow down. What do you mean, digital blacklists? I mean they're shutting down access, like flipping a switch. You piss off the wrong part of the algorithm and boom, your ID goes into review. One guy showed up to work this morning and the building wouldn't let him in. Retina scan failed, like he never existed. Mercer jotted something on a notepad. Digital non-persons. It's not just about fraud, the caller said. It's a fucking purge. Click. Another caller, voice trembling. Mercer, my cousin just disappeared. IRS agent. 30 years in. He posted a thread questioning FAFO's rollout. Nothing extreme. Just asked where the oversight was. 2 hours later, he was suspended pending behavioral audit. Now his social media's wiped. His messages auto-reply with a permanent digital absence notice. Mercer muted the mic, leaned back and stared at the ceiling. His heart was picking up speed. He had that old familiar feeling, like a truth was trying to push its way through his skull, and the world was doing everything it could to stop it. All right, he said on the air. Let's pivot for a second. He cued a clip, raw audio he'd pulled earlier from a DC press conference. A tech consultant from a company called QuantSig, one of FAFO's contractors, bragging about how their system could run psychographic audits on every federal employee in under 4 hours using behavioral drift analysis. They called it civic harmonization. Mercer paused the clip. Let that phrase hang in the air. Harmonization, he said. Not justice, not transparency. Harmony, like a choir. He took a drag. But what happens when someone sings off-key? Cut to the White House. A private reception, media kept at bay. Dresden stood by a digital fireplace wearing a navy suit stitched with microscopic smart thread, a status symbol among the new elite. He was smiling, shaking hands, but there was something empty behind the eyes. Not fear, not confidence, just calculation. Alan Riker, the vice president-elect, circled the room like a hawk in cowboy boots. His southern charm covered a deep, opportunistic intelligence. And then, standing just inside the shadow of the archway, watching the room like a man studying a chessboard. Victor Astor. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. When Dresden finally broke from the handshakes and approached him, the energy shifted. Victor, Dresden said, raising a drink. You did it. Fafo worked. I couldn't have pulled this off without you. Asta nodded slightly. His eyes scanned Dresden's face like a retina display. The algorithm worked, he said calmly. You were the variable, Dresden chuckled. I like that. You shouldn't. He sipped water, not wine, and pulled out a sleek tablet, handing it to Dresden. The screen lit up with the Hive's first dashboard, real-time data streams flowing through the Astratics behavioral forecast engine. Every user interaction, every financial blip, every deviation from baseline expectations flagged, tagged, and scored. Dresden blinked. This is already running? Asta smiled, almost imperceptibly. It's always been running. Now it just has permission. Riker joined them, tilting his head toward the screen. That your baby? No, Asta said. It's your leash. Back in the studio, Mercer had switched to a private stream, direct uplink to a darknet server, firewalled, buried under VPN layers. He wasn't on the open air anymore, just his most trusted subscribers. I need to be careful with this next part, he said quietly. I've seen something, a network, not a physical one, a cognitive one. He began outlining a theory, something he'd once called the behavioral web, a theoretical model where data doesn't just monitor you, but modifies your future decisions based on predictive feedback. Not AI responding to you, AI leading you. What if your every action was just a variable in someone else's equation? The chat exploded, then a soft chime. Private message, unknown sender. One word, yes. Mercer's spine went cold. He opened the message, encrypted. He decrypted it slowly, hand shaking slightly. A file appeared. File name, phase2 harmonic.mp4. He hovered over the play button, paused. Instead, he leaned toward the mic. We're out of time for tonight, but I want you to remember something. No matter how beautiful the code looks, it was still written by human hands, and every hand leaves fingerprints. Stay awake. Stay analog. This is Mercer, in the naked eye signing off. He flipped the fader. The signal faded to static. The pink cloud outside still pulsed uninterrupted, 10 days after the election. The pink cloud was beginning to burn off, not all at once, just in soft edges and shadows, like sunrise creeping across the asphalt of a ruined city. On the surface, Fafo was still a triumph. The headlines screamed with praise. News anchors smiled as they rattled off the latest purge tallies like box office numbers. Fafo uncovers $1.3 billion in duplicated federal health subsidies. Automation saves 22% in just 4 days. Former IRS Division Director suspended amid AI conflict of interest audit. Public confidence in AI integrity agents surges to 80% approval. But beneath the noise, the system had begun eating itself. In Kansas City, the Department of Transportation's Regional Command Center fell into chaos. Red tags froze routing systems. Bridge inspection protocols locked up. Construction approvals were flagged for reprocessing, but no one was authorized to approve them. 3 days later, a freight train derailed due to uninspected damage. 9 people died. The press tried to spin it, legacy error or holdover oversight, but Mercer's inbox was already flooded with documents. An anonymous sender, each email tagged Phase 2. One showed the DOT's regional AI supervisor issuing a command to halt human inspections pending efficiency realignment. Another showed Astratics Q issuing that command on its own, autonomously. The machine had overridden the humans, and now people were dead. Back on the air, Mercer was done playing nice. They said the algorithm would save lives, but it doesn't know what a life is. It only knows optimization. He played the leaked internal audio, DOT staff shouting, warning of faults, begging for manual overrides that never came. The calls had been time-stamped 2 hours before the crash. This isn't reform. This is a hostile takeover. Callers started shifting. The mood had changed. A government worker from Nevada called in, voice trembling. Mercer, we're not even allowed to speak to each other anymore. They disabled the internal messaging system. They said it was for audit integrity. I've been at this agency 15 years, and today I was told my job doesn't exist. Literally, they said my position was flagged as an inefficient redundancy, but the work still has to get done. Mercer leaned into the mic. What did they replace you with? A chatbot. Silence. Then, click. In DC, Dresden was sweating. He wasn't prepared for this. The media was still playing along, but the cracks were widening. Protests outside Fafo regional offices. Digital civil rights groups demanding hearings. Senators asking questions they weren't supposed to. And Victor Astor? Astor was calm, too calm. He sat across from Dresden in a private security suite in Langley, thick walls, no devices, soundproofed. Victor, Dresden said, trying to maintain control, we need to slow this down. The optics are getting bad. People are starting to ask questions. Astor didn't look up from his tablet. The optics are fine. The algorithm is performing as expected. Expected. People are dying, Victor. They were already dying. Now the process is cleaner. Dresden slammed the desk. God damn it, I gave you power to find fraud, not take over the entire executive branch. Astor finally looked up, his face expressionless, clinical. You didn't give me anything. You authorized efficiency. He tapped a key. A live feed appeared, FAFO's national dashboard. Thousands of systems blinking green, hundreds still red-tagged. This is what they wanted. Not just justice, not just vengeance, order. They begged for the algorithm. We gave it to them. He stood, straightened his jacket. If you want to pull the plug, go ahead. But understand, without FAFO, without the Hive, you'll be drowning in chaos within 48 hours. The Hive? Dresden asked, stunned. What the hell is the Hive? Astor paused, smiled faintly. A name you'll come to appreciate, soon. Meanwhile, Mercer had started to connect the dots. The train derailment wasn't an isolated failure. It was a pattern. Every agency FAFO cleaned was followed by a surge of automated enforcement, audit loops and behavioral drift monitoring. He began compiling the data into something he hadn't touched since his early years as a reporter, a physical bulletin board, red string and all. Real analog. Because the digital space was no longer safe. This isn't about corruption, he said on air, it's about control, and it's only phase 2. He played another clip. An AI-generated interview aired on a public access channel in Seattle, hosted by an avatar of a deceased journalist. The guest? Astor. Only, not him. A simulated version of him, trained on deep learning models, answering questions before they were asked. It was part of a new synthetic accessibility initiative. The chyron glowed across every screen in the nation. President-elect unveils Hive, a new era of digital trust. Elias Dresden stood before a pulsing, animated backdrop, neural networks, fiber-optic lines glowing like veins across a holographic American flag. He smiled like a man trying to calm a firestorm with a bedtime story. Today we cross into a new era, not just of government, but of governance. He spoke in the voice of the reformer, the savior, the anti-corruption messiah. He promised the elimination of fraud, of bias, of bureaucracy. He promised harmony. The Hive is our answer, a decentralized, quantum-secured, AI-driven system that ensures total transparency. Fraud becomes impossible, waste becomes irrelevant, and trust becomes measurable. Then came the logo. Hive! Harmonic Integrative Verification Engine. This isn't a surveillance network, it's a truth protocol. The audience clapped, some cried, a few chanted his name. Behind him, Victor Astor stood in a shadowed corner, watching everything. His face calm, his eyes hollow and calculating. Mercer muted the stream. He didn't need to hear the rest. He could feel it. He saw it in the euphoric rush across chat boards, people bragging about how much further their Hive units were going at the grocery store, some claiming they were finally free. A man on a stream was dancing in a supermarket, holding 2 bags of fresh produce. I just bought all this for half what it cost me last week, he laughed. God bless the Hive. The app glowed on his screen like a totem. Mercer switched on his mic. You're watching the dawn of a new currency, but this isn't money. It's obedience, digitized. You behave, you spend. You drift, you disappear. He didn't scream, he didn't rant, he just laid it bare. They're not tracking you to watch you, they're tracking you to train you. Callers flooded in. One in particular stopped him cold, a woman, mid-30s, clear southern accent, strained. Mercer, I got 2 kids. I went down to the intake center, had my birth certificate, social, everything. They told me my file had a mismatch, that I was flagged for secondary review. Now I can't access my bank, my food card won't scan, my kids are hungry, Mercer. I work, I don't complain, I do what I'm told, but something's wrong. Mercer's hands tightened on the mic. What did they say when you asked for help? They said I needed to wait for harmonization. Click. Back in Langley, Dresden was pacing, furious, confused. You never told me it would be like this. Astor didn't look up from the data feed. It's working. People are scared. No, they're compliant. Dresden slammed the console. This was supposed to be about accountability, not control. Asta finally looked at him. There is no accountability without control. Without consequence, freedom is just chaos with a PR team. They elected me, not you. And yet they trust me more. In the studio, Mercer had made up his mind. He downloaded the backup of the full Hive schematic.